Hello my friends and welcome to 5 anime games to this reaction zone. So, last time I hinted at possibly doing yet another Super Robot Tyson game review, but then I found this little gem at my local used game store. This is Miracle Girls Festival.
For those unfamiliar, this Vita title was made by Sega using the Hatsune Miku Project Diva game engine. The major difference between this game and the series starring everyone's favorite virtual idol, myself included, is that it has actual licensed songs from several anime being sung by the characters from those shows. Yup, while I'm not reviewing a Super Robot Tyson game, this does kind of fall into the same vein, being a crossover of several anime. While most of them are slice of life anime, Sega wasn't really aiming for any particular genre, they just wanted shows that had their major theme songs being sung by the actresses of the main characters of those shows.
So then the question is, how does this little mishmash of anime songs hold up to the juggernaut that is the Project Diva games? Well, let's take a look at Miracle Girls Festival for the PlayStation Vita to find out.
This game pretty much plays exactly like the Project Diva games. For those who haven't played those games, they are rhythm games whose button commands appear just about anywhere on the screen while the characters are performing on the stage. Hitting the buttons just as they float above the commands does take skill, but you do get used to it eventually. And while the placement of the commands as well as the specific buttons they expect you to press seem random at first, it does all serve to match with the rhythm and tempo of the song. It's hard to explain, you'd have to play to get the idea. The point is, while these games do take some getting used to, it eventually does start to feel intuitive after a while. The gameplay for Miracle Girls Festival is mainly separated into two modes, Tour and One Man Live. If this were a Project Diva game, then the One Man Live mode probably would have been the main game, just the player choosing any old song they'd like to play. But instead it ended up becoming more of the practice mode for the main game, Tour Mode. Tour Mode is basically a story mode, though there's not much story, at least not enough to devote a whole section of this review to. It's just the player taking on the role of the director of these concerts, touring all over Japan, while being advised by the stagehands, played by the Gogo 575 girls, more on them during the roster section. To make the tour successful, you just have to score enough points for each day. There's no retries during each individual tour day, so you just have to play it out until the very end. While this might sound a little constrictive, it's actually nice to have specific goals, and it does feel very rewarding in the end. In fact, during each performance, if your voltage gauge reaches 100% or more at about halfway through the song, then it initiates what is called the Miracle Fever Time, which not only gives you some bonus points, but you also get to see all sorts of pyrotactics and other special effects filling up the stage, which all look really awesome and get you excited. And if you hit the fever time during all of your performances in a single in-game day, then the crowd will start cheering for an encore, and then you can basically enter into a bonus round. You can't lose here, but damn does it get hectic, as the difficulty is automatically set to hard, and you have to play a full version of a random song you just played during that day. If it just happens to be a song that you are bad at, then, well, it can turn into an insane button mashing festival.
諦めねえ俺ねえ根性それが桶狭間の奇跡を呼び起こしたんだまあ別にそれと今回のこととは全然関係ないんだけども
Yeah, this stuff can lead to some pretty stiff thumbs.
Seriously, after about an hour playing this game, it makes me want to grab some ice water just so that I can stick my hand in it and numb the pain. it ends up replacing with different kind of pain, but it's worth it because it's a fun game.
Unfortunately, as great as this experience is, it's on the short side as it only spans 6 locations with 2 to 4 in-game days each. It will only take you a few hours to complete the full tour mode when not factoring in the breaks you'll need for your thumbs, but it is still a ton of fun to go back and replay certain areas too. I really don't have much to say aside from top-notch graphics here. The characters look on model with their anime designs, and the choreography is really well done. On a side note, I love how they gave certain characters new costumes. In particular, Rei from Vivid Red gave a palette suit that she never got to wear in the actual show. It looks really good on her. And just like the Project Diva games, this game is so damn good looking that you might end up slipping up and missing those notes. Thankfully though, there is a PV mode, but we'll get to that in just a bit. I'll discuss the actual music selection in the next part too, but for now I'll say this. It's tuned perfectly and sounds great. And to help accentuate how great it sounds, the crowd reactions are really damn good here too. They sing along, they chant, it just sounds really nice and helps to encourage the player. It even kind of helps you get in the right tempo too. My only minor gripe with the presentation might be the menus, as they are a tad bit tricky to navigate, not very intuitive. But that is a really minor nitpick, as this is a really good looking and sounding game. Just like the Super Robot Tyson games, your investment into this game might be affected by the actual roster. There's a total of 11 series here, with most of them actually having been licensed here in the States by either Sentai Filmworks or DC America. And only one of them is going to be getting an English dub, Noreen, and that's mostly because it was licensed by Funimation, who will give dubs to almost all of their shows anyway. But yeah, most of the anime here are arguably B grade, though personally, I like most of them. Heck, I'd consider some of them hidden gems. Seriously, give Engage to the Identify to watch. The leads in that are an adorable couple. And even if you don't like these shows, you'll probably have a hard time denying that they don't add to a fantastic soundtrack. Sega mostly chose these anime based on their songs, and whoever was in charge of choosing them has some damn good taste because these are really catchy tunes. Heck, even though I've never seen it, I ended up falling in love with the arpeggio of Blue Steel songs. There are a couple of my favorite songs to play and listen to in this game. But that unfortunately leads into my first real issue with this game, the quantity of songs here. Every anime only gets 2 songs each. Now, while they do offer the ability to play through the made-for-TV sized or full versions of the songs, it's still technically a mere 22 songs, which, while kind of substantial, is still a far cry from the 33 to 40 songs the Project Diva games had before DLC. Maybe this series will also get more songs through DLC, keeping my fingers crossed, but for now, it's a good enough collection, though it could use more. Also, as great as this roster is, it is unfortunately not utilized to its full potential. Personally, I kind of wish this game would have been more like the Super Robot Tyson games and have all of these characters interact with one another.
They wouldn't even really have to be voice acted. I just appreciate if we could get some interaction between characters like, say, I and Rise without going to my doujinshi. But nope, instead we got focused on the girls of Go-Go 575.
Yeah, Go-Go 575 was based on a rhythm game by Sega, so it figures they get the special treatment here, as they take up all of the dialogue segments during the tour mode. I don't even really get what their roles are supposed to be. They start off as stagehands and then suddenly join the band during the final leg of the tour mode. Was this supposed to be them pulling a big damn hero moment? Because, you know, we already have like 1 or 2 superhero teams on this roster. Well, whatever. 575 hogging the spotlight is kind of made up for thanks to some good extras in this game. Probably the best extra you get in this whole game are the special messages you get after completing a successful tour day, topped with an encore performance. A random member of the group who performed the encore will give you a really touching little speech, fully voice acted, encouraging you to keep going. It's a really nice little extra feature that you won't be able to hear anywhere else aside from this game. The second best extra feature is having the option just to watch and enjoy these concerts as music videos through the PV mode. And even if you haven't completed them in the game, you can even watch the full versions of the songs.
If you just so happen to have a PlayStation TV, I would highly recommend using this just to watch it on your HD so that you can get sort of the full concert experience.
Other features that you can purchase with in-game cash and not real cash, crappy microtransactions, include extra in-game costumes and figures that you can display as though they were actual figures, even though you're just looking at them through your tiny little beta screen. Yeah, between this and the Godzilla game, I don't get why anyone outside of completionists would want to collect these as opposed to just getting the real figures. But whatever suits your fancy.
Me personally, I'm more of a plushie collector. Isn't that right, guys? What am I doing with my life?
Overall, this is a fantastic game. While the Project Diva games have a lot more to offer in terms of both the quantity of songs and extra content, this game still stands on its own. In fact, I kind of like it more than the Project Diva games. After all, this has anime series that I've really grown to enjoy watching after as many as 3 seasons, so I just really enjoy being able to play a game with great music from those shows. And I bet you will too. On the positive side of things, this is a great roster, especially if you're into slice of life anime like me. The soundtrack is made up of some of the catchiest tunes in all of anime. The graphics and choreography are beautifully done, and the special messages are really touching to hear. On the flip side of that, this game could have used 1 or 2 more songs from each series. The tour mode is short, and there's way too much focus on Gogo 575, even though we'd want to see some actual interaction between the series crossing over. While I can't give this game a perfect score based on length and the lack of songs, I still highly recommend picking it up if you're into rhythm games or any of these anime. I give Miracle Girls Festival 4.5 pigtailed leads out of 5.
Well, that's it for my first actual review of the year. I'll be back next time with something a little bit different. A subject matter that I've avoided talking about because, well, of a little something called copyright. Hopefully I'll be able to get around it, but until then, farewell for now, my friends.